Hola, ¿cómo va todo? It would appear I found myself in yet another interesting and precarious situation. Um, Although this one, unlike some others that I've documented on this channel so far, I'm getting a divorce. Now, it was me who initiated the initial process and had the idea, but to be frank, I think it was probably an idea that was swerving around in her head as well for a period of time, simply because the two of us continuously felt unloved by the other due to real or imagined circumstances, right? In my case, I felt that way because I was consistently not understood, listened to, my boundaries were walked all over, and again and again and again, she would utilize demeaning language towards me. Now, that isn't to say that I view her as a bad person or someone who was acting outside of circumstances, because in fairness to her, I think much of the way that she would refer to me and the ways in which she would react stemmed from this core feeling that she continuously experienced, which was the fact that she did not love me. This was a fundamental kind of thing. And obviously, when you don't love somebody, but you feel compelled to stay with them nonetheless, it can snowball into behaving in increasingly desperate or mean ways. Um, I'll say that I had loved her, but I also more so loved an idea of her that I had in my mind. I loved this idea that she had consistently built up throughout the early part of our relationship. This idea that she was kind and supportive and would be there for me. Those notions ended up crumbling right before my eyes as I continuously saw her demean me, insult me, yell at me, go after like immutable characteristics of mine, or my economic status. The fact that I grew up poorer than her was continuously this fault line for her that she would always go back to. And also cheating on me. This was another big point of contention between the two of us, but at the time when I had considered leaving and almost did, I had decided to give her another chance. I think in retrospect, the fact that I got cheated on should have been a wake-up call for me that, hey, this bitch doesn't really love you, like she's not actually interested in you. But I thought, I've cheated on someone before when I was in a more immature and, unknowledgeable time in my life, right? And consistently, I had viewed her as someone who was learning all of these lessons one by one over the course of our marriage. And so I was like, okay, ignorance, immaturity, a lack of emotional stability, these are things that can be hammered out with time. And I know that because I was able to do that, right? All of those sort of confusing and somewhat toxic things that I experienced in a few past relationships went away over time, never to be seen again. And so I thought, well, she hasn't had as much relationship experience and experience with love as me, so let's give this a try. Let's try and see if forgiveness is the right way to go here. And so I forgave. Naively so, I've come to realize, because that response of cheating on me, it was a response. It was a response to this broader situation where she did not love me. And it explains and illuminates all of these other situations where she was continuously demeaning, continuously emotionally abusive, in several cases even threatened physical violence against me, when I did nothing but attempt to be loving and caring and kind and supportive. Over and over and over, my love was trampled on and unappreciated, much like several other relationships which I've had. And again, this video should not serve to go after her or paint her in an evil sort of way, because there's never a 100% good or bad to anyone, right? There are always good aspects. I wouldn't have fallen in love initially if there weren't some good aspects. Even though to an extent I was misled, there were also genuinely good things about her. There was a genuine extent to which she was trying to be a good person and to improve. But for whatever reason, be it responses to trauma or emotional instability, dysregulation, and the like, she was not able to do that and failed again and again, putting me in increasingly stressful situations that violated my boundaries, and I wasn't going to go along with it anymore. I couldn't go along with it anymore. So I said, I'm done with this. I can't do it. And as well, it's not as if this was entirely one-sided. I did not enjoy the person I was becoming. I did not like who this relationship was turning me into. This person who felt on edge, who felt afraid to even message my own friends because she would be looking over my shoulder, attempting to see what I was saying, to try and figure out if I was looking for some other woman or man or whatever, and believing that these displays of authenticity and platonic affection that I would display to my friends were somehow an indication that I was looking elsewhere, that I was trying to abandon her, even though there was only one person in our relationship who had ever cheated. It's like the amount of projection that I would receive from her was insane. It's like I would just try to have my social interactions, to have my friends, to be a normal fucking guy who is happy and lives out their life. And she would always be over my shoulder, like a dark cloud, a dark, rainy, thunderous cloud, attempting to remove all of the light from my little splotch of the earth. And I wasn't going to have it anymore. I was not going to have someone who violated my privacy, someone who consistently was jealous and conniving and manipulative and actively attempting to undermine my friendships and my will to life. I was not going to have someone like that in my own house ever again. So I had to put my foot down. I had to lay down the law as it is. Because the anger that would elicit in me, being treated that way, being spoke to that way, constantly being under the threat of surveillance and suspicion, the person that would turn me into, someone angry and scared, was not someone that I wanted to be. I wanted to be someone who was free. I wanted to be someone who was respected as a human being and empathized with on equal terms in the same way that I did for her. That mutual respect was never mutual. It was never a two-sided thing. It was always on the one side, over here. And so I had to let it go. It had to stop. Because I deserved better. And given the veracity of some of my reactions in response to her abuse, she deserved better as well. And I believe that she will be in a better relationship and situation if she actually changes. If she works to become more emotionally stable, if she works to become a better person, if she works to be someone who is actually worthy of a long-term committed relationship. She needs to be by herself for a while. Otherwise, she's just going to keep repeating the cycle, and it'll be up to some sucker or fool to find out what I found out, which is that this individual cannot be trusted. But again, I don't think it's because of some malintent on her part or some innate evil. I don't think humans are created good or evil. They have the ability to choose. And there are a multifaceted set of desires and feelings that any given person will experience over the course of their life, often in contradiction to one another. And if she decides to make the right choices and tap into the good aspects of herself, she will have a good life. but it's going to be a good life without me because I can't stand it anymore. I had to go. I had to stop this. And that's my feelings on the divorce. I'm going to be divorced at 23 years old. And in a way, I couldn't be happier about it. As I've experienced this relief, as she has departed, as has her abuse, I've found myself calmer, more at ease, and more able to focus on the things that really impact me. Damn. That was a lot to get out. You know, I've even started making my ex-wife jokes. I feel like I'm at a pretty early stage in my life to be able to do that, which makes them even funnier. Yeah, I mean, I'm just having fun with it. Like, of course, it's a little sad whenever you depart a relationship, no matter how bad it is, especially one that had all these strings attached, the commitments and so forth. Like, it's gonna be sad. You're gonna have trouble, but also it's gonna feel really fucking good if it was a bad one. So that's the wavelength that I'm on right now. I think if there's anything else I wanted to bring up in this video. I don't think so. I think that's about it. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else. I got a new girlfriend now who's way hotter. And I don't really like comparing women's looks in this way, but I doubt Sophia will ever see this video or care, so it's fine. I can say she's way the fuck hotter and also a lot nicer to me and more respectful of my boundaries. So it's something I'm cautiously optimistic about. You know, it's nice having a friend that you kind of transition into a relationship with where you have that like that baseline understanding of one another. And she's also older and more experienced than Sophia, so I have a good feeling about her. I love her a lot, and I think as I come to know her more, that feeling will only grow. But it's also something that I've learned that you shouldn't dive into head first out of respect for the other person, right? It's like, in a sense, things progressing as fast as they did, I'm talking about between me and Sophia, was unfair to her as it was to me, right? You know, taking those huge commitments and leaps when we weren't even compatible with one another, and when there were some early signs that we weren't going to be compatible with one another, I mean, it was unfair, right? Like, I think if I had more context and more maturity, I would have been able to sniff that out and make a different decision. But you live and you learn, right? And so I've got a lot of good signs on this current relationship, but I also am able to say that partially because I have been able to take what I have learned coming out of this marriage and apply it, and be respectful, and put up my own boundaries and be cognizant of hers, and it feels a lot better in that regard. It also feels better because she and I share similar goals, right? We both want the same things, we both think in a pretty similar way, and our communication is like ironclad. Not to say that there aren't some misunderstandings, as there are with some people at all times, but it isn't like this thing with Sophia where I consistently felt like she was this kind of dim, unanalytical, non-introspective person who didn't want to look inside of herself or anything around her, and like consistently needed me to explain the basics and the fundamentals to her in order to even have a conversation. Like, she didn't even know how to really have a conversation. And so I was having to constantly like break down each and every facet of what a conversation was to her in order for us to even be able to communicate, because we would just be talking past one another. Like, I'd have to basically go back to the very beginning and explain the cosmos in order for her to even begin to see what I was trying to say. And that is not something that I have with my current girlfriend, because she is also analytical, right? She challenges me on a number of subjects and is actually able to one-up me in some ways throughout these conversations, as I also challenge her. And so it's like we're on the same wavelength in that respect. It's not this constant toil where I have to try and get her up to speed, or where I just feel like we're not connecting at all because of the lack of shared knowledge. No, it's like a thing where we're on par with one another, like we're equals. And that is extremely important in a relationship, right? It's important to be with someone who inspires you and pushes you to do better, and also is equal to you, and a peer, who you can have conversations with. And that should have been obvious to me, right? But I foolishly was convinced that the rules didn't apply to me, and that I could make it work nonetheless just by being so awesome, and the sheer force of effort. But obviously, life humbles you, right? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You can't change a person. You can only change yourself. And in this case, I realized that I couldn't do either of those things. And I thought I knew that. I thought I understood those lessons, but here I was making mistakes where I attempted to do precisely those things and failed. Not again. Not again will I find myself in such a situation. That I am confident of. Because this has been a strenuous, straining experience, and it's not one that I ever intend to repeat.